Ask it out in the open. Okay, perfect. We're going to record this. So our first question, during the pandemic, how has your internship or job search changed? And what challenges have you overcome during your internship or job search? Now we can go ahead and swing this over to Tawanga. Do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. For me, so before the pandemic, I used to rely on going to career fairs and having companies come to the university for me to meet with them and interact with them, give them my resume. You know, that was a more personal connection that you were able to make with employers. But during the pandemic, when everything went virtual and we had to do virtual career fairs, I think the main challenge was not being able to connect with recruiters and employers on a personal level, because some of the virtual career fairs, you only have a chat box where you're chatting with employers. And I didn't really like that because you aren't able to express yourself as well as you would hope to. Unlike if you're having, you know, that in-person one-to-one connection. So that really changed for me. So I had to figure out a way of being able to connect with employers in a virtual world. So LinkedIn became a big thing for me. I used to love going there before, but during the pandemic, it was even more important because at least you can get to connect with somebody and have a conversation outside of the career fair situation. So that really helped me during the pandemic when it comes to job search.
Thank you so much. And that's a really great response. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody have any thoughts they want to follow up with?
I'd like to chime in on that. Another big challenge for me was pretty much the same during the interview process, being able to communicate your personality and show your energy over a virtual screen. It's like the interview used to be so bland, but we try tribulations, we achieve everything we do.
And that's a great point. I think a lot of the time students see all these challenges and they can get so overwhelmed, but when you really put your mind to something and you want it, a lot of the times you can't achieve it. And that's a big attribute to GSU. We have 50,000 plus students. So it takes a lot of hard work to get a lot of these students to graduate. Next, I want to swing over to the next question real quick because I really like this one. And I think we're going to have some obvious answers, but we'll also have maybe some insightful contributions as well. So our next question is going to be, how has networking with employers changed for you during the pandemic? And I actually want to ask this one over to my friend, Jennifer Cruz. Let me know if you would like me to repeat the question.
Thank you so much, Bronson. And yes, of course, I actually used to live on campus and I came out to Georgia State and I was determined, so I was at every single business event every day, multiple times a day sometimes, and even throughout the week. And I was just so excited to, network and meet all these people. But when the pandemic happened, I actually moved back home. I live in Conyers now, which is 30 minutes out. So kind of that kind of vivid, like business events weren't really happening anymore. So I kind of had to transition over and start changing my approach. I started messaging people on LinkedIn, or I would connect with people in my internship. So I still do the networking aspect. However, it's more virtual. And I think a benefit of doing that is you can connect with people from all over the country, Of course, you have to make sure they know what time zone you're in. So yeah, that's the only thing. So yeah.
Thank you for providing those insights. Alastair, do you want to provide us with some more thoughts and maybe your perspective about how has networking changed with employers, how that has changed during the pandemic?
Sure. Thanks, Bronson. So I am coming back to school to change careers. So my first semester was this past spring in the middle of pandemic. So for me, networking I hadn't really been doing networking because I'd been working before I wanted to change careers. So everything being virtual was overwhelming, to say the least. From just, there were more events and more opportunities to meet people, but like it's already been said, the quality of that time was very different. You often only had 10 minutes to try to strike up a conversation with someone. And so I found that it was really important to take good notes and then follow up with them afterwards with something unique to say, hey, I really want to get more of your time. I want to talk with you about this. And that's something that enabled me to have those longer 20, 30, 45-minute follow-up questions. But it was tough because all I'd known, 20 years ago coming out of college was the in-person face-to-face stuff. So, but I think Georgia State and the classes and the Career Advancement Center that focus on professionalism really helped me get everything done lickety split. So I was ready in terms of a LinkedIn profile, nice headshot, things like that. So it was an invaluable resource for me personally.
Yeah, and we also had a real quick chat. Let me pull this up real quick. Someone made a nice comment about you. Jamaica Argue said, Alastair, you are also mastered your elevator pitch. He's offering training if needed. So, and I work with Alastair, and he really has done that. And a great, I guess, evidence for that is, Alastair, what are you going to be doing this summer? You already have an internship, correct?
Yeah, and hello, Jamaica. She's actually the HR recruiter from Hancock Askew and Co. And I was able to actually meet them this fall in person. And that led over like a 2-week period to turning into a public accounting internship for the next summer, which I'm super excited about. So,
and that's awesome. Especially somebody that's put the time in earlier in their career and then took time to come back and do this all over again. It's great to see you have these opportunities. Let's see. Tram, would you like to provide any input in maybe how has networking with employers changed for you during the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has all been virtual for me. I've never done that before because when I was on campus, we would all meet at a certain place at like 55 Park Place to network with employers, but now everything's virtual. And like the previous panelist said, it's just a different atmosphere, but I think a positive out of that is that you can see everyone in one screen and they can recognize, oh, you were at that meeting and so forth. So for me, when I go to those online events with my student orgs like Women in Tech, I can see everyone and they know I was there. We can all speak and we're not like fighting to like speak with one person. So it has been virtual, but I think there was some positives out of virtual meetings.
Yeah, and you're also able to kind of develop some virtual skills that we're gonna have to develop moving forward. Even though we're going to be moving forward with virtual, we're also going to have some in-person contact with companies. I had an internship with Sun Life this past summer, and they're starting to do some in-person stuff this fall. So one thing that we're going to be looking for once we start to transition back into the workplace, and we're always focusing on this, is diversity and inclusion. So I have a third question here for the group. What are you looking for in a company when it comes to diversity and inclusion? And I would like to swing this over to Tawanga.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at diversity and inclusion in a company, I am looking at if a company has measures in place to ensure that they are hiring people from diverse backgrounds. And it's not just racial diversity. We're looking at diversity in all aspects because it makes for a better workplace when you can see people from different backgrounds get to meet people and interact with people from different places. And like if you go to a place and you see the same people all around, so diversity and inclusion in every sense of the word, not just racial, but yeah. So looking at the measures that they have in place and seeing that they're actually following through on the words that they say. Plus some companies say, oh, we have this diversity and inclusion initiative, but they don't actually follow through with it. So seeing that they're actually doing what they say that they're going to do is something that is very important for me.
That's a really great point. And I think you also touched on something. It's not about race, it's about ethnicity, and it's not about meeting ratios. It's about just getting people of diverse backgrounds in so we can kind of exchange thoughts and pick off each other's perspectives. Alastair, would you like to provide actually, I'm going to swing this over to Tram again. I would like to hear your input on what you're looking for in a company when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And then Alastair, if you would like to provide some input after Tram, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so for companies, I hope that they're open to diverse people, because if you have a group of people who are all the same, thinking the same, you're not going to innovate as a company. And I think now that we're in a culture where everyone is, international or from different parts of the world, we have to be able to accommodate for people of different backgrounds. And it's not just like we're doing it just to do it, but it really will help stimulate the company, because like I said, if you have the same people thinking the same thing, how are you going to innovate your processes? How are you going to innovate your workforce? So for me, I hope that these companies, they have like actual groups within the companies, like I think they're employee resource groups. So I look for those, and I look for, are these companies actively having trainings to get people knowledgeable about these types of programs that exist? Because I didn't know about some of these programs until I got deep into like my certain jobs. So it's definitely out there, and I hope that these companies push it out so that you know ahead of time.
Yeah, no, I think something that Chawanga actually she is an international student, and Tram, you touched on that as well. So I think that's something that GSU really focuses on as well, as in not only including ethnic diversity within the United States, also looking internationally. Alastair, I'm actually going to throw a curveball. I'm going to switch up the question here. What is the best advice you have ever been given in order to prepare for your future career? And let me know if you would like me to repeat that.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds simple, but showing up is one of the most important things you can do. When I started, it was right in the middle of the public accounting recruiting season. I didn't know the difference between audit and tax. I just vaguely heard of the Big Four, and I went to meetings. There are meetings to network and talk to employers every single day at Georgia State. And it's how you get to build your network. It's how you get to ask questions. It's how you get to interact with other people. And it's how you get answers, so that we're not just going off on our assumptions about, oh, this company is like this or this company is like this. And again, it sounds basic, but showing up is what puts you in front of people who you never know when it may be 5-10 years down the road, but maybe there's an opportunity to talk with them and work with them professionally. And you just always have to assume that this person might be of some use to you.
Thank you. I would continue more on that, but we actually have a question from the chat, and I want to swing this over to Dijon. We have from the chat from Tashley Hatton. What makes you feel included or valued? And that's pretty broad, so feel free to.
What makes me feel valued is just an employer showing that they care. It's showing they care for your personal growth, your professional growth, and providing opportunity so where you're just not stuck in one place, where you don't feel like you just stuck same place, not going over there, and you feel stagnant in life and your own career path.
Thank you. Yeah, Jennifer, do you wanna kind of piggyback off that? The question is, what makes you feel valued and included? And I guess that could be in a company, in a student organization, at GSU, however you want to take that.
Yeah, of course. I think Dejan did a beautiful job of explaining that, because I definitely align with that. But I think another thing also is seeing senior executives reaching out to me and seeing what they can do to help me. I think that's something that really stands out to me about a company, and it shows a lot about their leadership strategy as well, that you're willing to talk to people entry level to help them, be up in the C-suite executive as well.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective to add. I wanted to ask you something before too, when we skipped over it. Let me pull up the question right here for you. If we ignore diversity and inclusion, what do you think the long-term consequences will be in the workplace and in the school environment? And Jennifer, that's for you.
Yes. So I think you're definitely risking the absence of including new innovative ideas and gaining a new perspective. I think we touched on this before, but I've actually been put on teams where they were kind of like stuck and they said that they haven't been able to bring in new ideas or excel this project where it needs to go because you have people from the same background, from this, around the same age, and the project is not going anywhere and there's no fresh ideas being introduced. So it's kind of like a problem within the companies. And I think that's when me and other diverse candidates are able to come in and be able to shake up the room.
I like that. And I've experienced your ability to shake up the room in many of the meetings. We are actually close teammates on Panthers on Wall Street for the past 2 years, and that's been a great experience. So Tram, we know you have experience in the tech industry. That's where you're going to be focusing. So considering the social and political climate and the fact that the country is more divided, what are your thoughts on companies who show a lack of interest in addressing such issues? And the reason I'm saying this is related to tech is because we see a lot of, I guess, controversy around technological corporations right now.
Okay, gotcha. So I think, as I've kind of touched on before, if we're not showing interest, if companies are not showing interest, they are also saying, oh, we don't really care about the people either. And I think that's a really huge statement. It's a silent one, but that's really huge, because if you're not up to date on social issues, political issues, how can you really say you stand up for your employees? And then that makes employees not feel safe in the environment they're in because they can't speak up, they can't voice their opinions. So if companies are not up to date with what's going on in our society right now, it's not going to be good in the long term, because trust is going down with the public, and also employees can tell right away.
And do you think that there is a best practice or a best way to stay up to date on this kind of information?
Absolutely. And I would say just follow up with your news, because that's where all the information is. News outlets, like the Washington Post, and there's so many credible sources out there. So definitely a lot of sources to look at too.
Thank you. I really appreciate your input on that. Dejan, we're going to come right back to you, and it's going to be the same question. So considering the social and political climate and the fact that the country is more divided, what are your thoughts on companies who show a lack of interest in addressing such issues?
Pretty much, I'm gonna follow right behind what Tram has said. Your employees not gonna feel safe, and when your employees don't feel safe, they don't feel secure, they're not gonna be able to provide that efficient work that the company desires. And just not being there, I feel like I'm a firm believer that you take care of your employees, they're gonna take care of your clientele, and that's pretty much it. Like, employees need to feel safe and secure.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we're really prioritizing now in 2021, and something we'll continue to prioritize moving forward. So it's a really great perspective. Let's see. There was a question earlier. I asked one person. I kind of want to come back to this question. So Tawanga, we're going to ask you, what are the long-term consequences if we ignore diversity and inclusion in the workplace and school environment?
Yeah, I think based on my experience when I work in, on group assignments, in my different organizations, when you look at the leadership team, when you work with people from different backgrounds, you get new ideas that you wouldn't have gotten a hold of if you were with people of your same background. Like Bronson said, I'm international, I'm from Africa. And if I was just in the same group of people as the same people that I grew up with and the same people that I always see around, then I wouldn't get to hear of different perspectives, because when you come from different cultures and different backgrounds, you can relate to different things. So when you bring in those different perspectives to the group, then it makes for a better project, for a better outcome. So if companies ignore that, then you'll have the same people work for you and you won't be able to get access to those different ideas.
And Tawanga, I always love having conversations with you about this, because I feel like I'm always learning something. And we just got a question from the chat, so I'm going to come right back to you. What do you think the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse working environment is?
Yeah, so the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse working environment? That's a great question. I think coming in from a different place, when you are moving into a place where you meet different people, I think the most challenging thing is understanding each other's cultures, because what I may find appropriate is not something that someone else will find appropriate. So when you get into that space, I always think the best thing is for you to listen and try to understand where the other person is coming from, and try to understand, you know, like, where are you coming from with this perspective? Where are you coming? How did you come about to this point, you know? So it's very challenging when you're in a new place with a different culture, because that's not what you're accustomed to. And so it's always the best thing to just listen to the other person and try to understand them as best as you can without bringing in your own judgments and stereotypes to the place, you know, just trying to understand them as best as you can.
I love that. Yeah. And that's something that I've really learned coming to GSU, is you really want to reserve judgment, because you don't know what the other person is going through. I think, Kesha, are we supposed to stop at 12:30? Sorry. Okay, let's do.
It's time to wrap up. One more question.
Yeah, we just got another one from
in the chat.
Tashley. Yes, we just got another one from Tashley. So let's do Jennifer. I guess you'll finish this off today. We have a question from Tashley. The question is, how do you measure inclusion?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think an easy way to do that is seeing diversity at every level. When I pull up an organization chart, I don't want to see a lack of women or people of color on that chart. I also think compensation equity is very important. To this day, women are earning 76 cents to what $1 is earned by a man. And that number extremely decreases for women of color. And I think, you know, inclusive environments are where new ideas are embraced. And also the company shows that they are willing to put their own contribution and investment towards racial justice. So I think looking at all those factors, you can really determine where your company sits at in terms of inclusion.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. We just got a response from Christian Dula and from NCR. It's great answer. That was a great response. That's something I didn't even think of. I was trying to think about how to measure inclusion. I didn't even think about seeing that on every single level and seeing that in compensation. I just got a message from Marielle. We have about 8 minutes, so we can do another question. If anybody wants to send another question in the chat, maybe towards a specific student, or if they want me to open it up to anybody and somebody can take a stab at it, feel free. Let's see if we get one in the chat. But other than that, thank you guys for providing. All right, let's see. Yeah, but you guys have provided a lot of great information today. Jennifer, that was if we don't have any more questions, that was a great response to end it on. Oh, perfect. We got another one from Jamaica. Let's see. What do you think is an important key to retention of diversity? And I'm going to open it up to anybody. So let's see. What do you think is an important key to retention of diversity?
I think communication is something that's underpinned everybody's responses from this panel so far in terms of understanding where people are coming from. I was in the Peace Corps for 3 years in the Balkans, and I worked with the Refugee Resettlement Agency prior to changing careers. And so I had different languages that I didn't speak. I had different cultural backgrounds I was working with, and the communication was what sort of held everything together. And it's hard. That's the other thing, is that diversity is hard. And that's why I think you see so many companies have these measures that on the outside looking in, you're just like, well, that's not really doing it. But it's the taking the time to understand where people are coming from. And it's that being heard and feeling safe and feeling understood, which is what I think anybody really wants in their day-to-day interactions, both professionally and personally.
Thank you, Alastair. Thank you for taking a stab at Chawanga. Did you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. I like that part about communication, because I think when I came into this country, I realized that most people try to shy away from the conversation about, diversity and, racial division and stuff like that. But I think having those open conversations about that is one step forward, because if you're able to accept that, yes, we have this issue right here, and then you try to take steps to address that issue, then there's a higher chance that you're going to retain diversity in your organization, because you're able to accept that people are different, and you accept those differences and you work with them.
Thank you for stepping in. Thank you. Sorry, we only have a few minutes left. I wanted to grab this question from Luana Hill. She is with Truist University. What are your expectations for the workplace going forward, remote versus in person? And this will be our last question for the panel. Tram, do you want to take a step at this one? What are your expectations for the workplace going forward, remote versus in person?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we will understand is that when we go back in person, when it's safe to do that, it's not going to be the same as, since we've been in the pandemic for like almost 18 months. So my expectations is that when we go into the workplace, there's going to be people who are not comfortable, and there's going to be people who are probably comfortable. So respect each other's boundaries, and, don't judge each other for what they're doing, but also for the company to be listening to their employees' concerns. Like, if people are not safe going back, don't make them all go back, because as we see, remote work is very possible. It's just, we're all in these little boxes, but it's very possible. And if people have, concerns, let them continue what is comfortable for them, but don't push the company objective to everyone when they're not comfortable.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. I think I wish we could provide more input on that and kind of continue on, but I'm going to go ahead and swing this back to Lakeisha, because we are going to move on with our panel and our discussion.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate my student panel this year. You guys did a wonderful job. Thank you, employers, for your wonderful questions. But we're about to get some wonderful insight for you as well. So students, you are allowed to be into wonderful breakout rooms. Marielle will start placing students in breakout rooms with employers to have a little chit chat, networking session virtually, because this is how it is nowadays. Normally, we would actually have networking sessions right at our tables. All of my employers who used to come to the breakfast know how we used to get down, but now we're going to do a breakout room and have you guys do it this way and still have that opportunity to network. Once again, I appreciate each and one of our employers who had the opportunity to come out. My student panel, what a wonderful and fabulous job you did today. I can't thank you enough. I am extremely proud of you and all of your successes. Continue to grow and flow, and happy graduation to you all. If you have any